Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are live from the Global Produce and Floral Show here in Anaheim. We're so excited as well to have two very important guests with us to talk a little bit of conversation about what happens at the end of the show. I know that so many of our folks come to the show every year, and when that Saturday night rolls around, everybody's exhausted, takes a big collective sigh of relief, and then they head home and they go on their vacations and they take their time off, but they never think about where does the produce and floral go next. And so that's what we're going to be here to talk about today. So I'm so excited to have two partners from our rescue operations, which is where the food and floral goes after the show. So I'd love to introduce them first. Kristen, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. My name is Kristen Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Food Forward, which is a food recovery organization based in Los Angeles. And we are so excited to partner with IFPA to glean the show along with Second Harvest.
Great. And Kelly, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. My name is Kelly Alisi. I am the Director of Sourcing, Logistics, and Sustainability for Second Harvest Food Bank of Orange County. We are a hunger relief organization based here in Orange County, and we have been serving our community this year. Actually, next week it'll be officially our 40th anniversary serving the community, and this is we've been recovering food from this show for I think the last like 8 to 10 cycles that the show has come through.
Yeah, I think it's been the 80s since we've been working together.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Kelly, do you mind telling us a little bit about how your organization does serve your community?
Yeah, so as a food bank, there is a big difference of a food bank and a food pantry. So a food bank is an organization that can receive large donations of food. We are in a 121,000 square foot facility down in Irvine, California. So we recover and work with large donors and produce houses and just different entities to bring food in, and we break that down into smaller orders that will fulfill the need of the actual community. So we build tailor-made orders for churches, houses of worship, shelters, soup kitchens, so that so we can house these large donations when a small food pantry may not be able to house them.
That's wonderful. And Kirsten, do you want to talk a little bit about how your organization serves the local community as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So Food Forward serves about 8 surrounding counties in California, 6 neighboring states and tribal lands in New Mexico and Oklahoma. And across that, we have about 264 hunger relief partners at about 313 sites. And so similarly, we are able to bring in bulk and break that bulk and send it out. And so as a B2B operation, we're able to serve kind of our biggest partners with tractor trailer loads down to our smallest partners with single pallets. We've been in operation since 2009, and through that span, at the end of this year, I think we will have exceeded 350 million pounds of produce rescued and put on families' plates.
That's amazing. And so I know that we're talking a lot about sort of the logistics, and I think that our audience actually has a lot of curiosities about the logistics before we even get into the impact and sort of the process. But I'd love to hear a little bit about what are some of your greatest challenges, not just sort of how in terms of connecting and partnering across the community, but truly in the logistical operation. That what you're both talking about is serving an enormous area, a variety of different populations. Would either of you like to jump in and talk a little bit about what your biggest challenges are?
Sure. Most recently, the biggest challenge has been supply chain and just the availability of product that is at an affordable, reasonable cost, and the availability of donations. Through the start of COVID, we have seen all of the food available that was traditionally available for donations being pushed out to groceries because they need the product. So that has really dried up the donations for food banks throughout the country. It's not just here in Southern California. But we have been able to, as an organization, pivot and develop a very robust purchasing program where we are not just soliciting for donations. We are actually going to the vendors who donate to us, and as well as being like, hey, can we purchase from you too? Because we want to have an inbound of these really healthy proteins, dairy, eggs, and then produce. Produce is huge of what we do, and just working with vendors who have donated in the past, because it shows that there is value there and there's value to that relationship, but then also being able to bring them in as a purchasing vendor too. But just the cost of inbound food into California has just been astronomical, and just really finding vendors and manufacturers that are here in California, and I'm very lucky to have a very large fleet, and I can send my trucks into other regions to go pick up food where it would cost me so much more to use a 3PL to bring it to us.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think it's so difficult sometimes to think about, especially for produce, which does oftentimes require refrigeration and then continued cold chain. And so I think a lot of times people aren't necessarily, especially our consumers, aren't necessarily fully educated or understanding about what it is that final mile requires, especially as it relates to just the transportation component.
Yeah.
Kristen, do you all have, I imagine, probably similar challenges, but what are you all facing as well?
Yeah, well, similarly, obviously the cost of food is absolutely insane right now. We only deal in produce, so everything that comes in is plant-based, and one of our biggest assets is that our entire warehouse team, they're veterans of the produce industry. So that makes our logistics operation very nimble, very efficient, and they have relationships where they can get trucks out immediately. We have a donor that calls and says, we have product, and we're there, within the hour, basically. And, we don't purchase any product. We're able to operate at about 7 cents a pound operational cost. And then, we're talking about the biggest challenge. And, if I'm going to reframe that and think about our biggest opportunity with the produce industry, that's really working to reframe the conversation around food loss and, knowing that food loss is a reality in this industry, whether through market failures, supply chain issues, rejections, that kind of thing. Food loss is really an opportunity to drive consumption. If you partner with organizations like the Food Bank and Food Forward, it's an opportunity to provide these fresh fruits and vegetables to people who otherwise might not be able to access them. And so, we get children hooked on blueberries at a young age. When a family goes into a grocery store and, they're making those decisions with very limited funds, they might not take the chance on that, star fruit or the blueberry. But once they've tried it and their kids are begging for it, right, then you're driving consumerism. You're taking a whole generation of kids and turning them into, the produce lovers. So, we really are wanting to change that narrative in the industry that food loss happens. Let's turn that into abundance for everybody. So.
Or how do we get one step ahead of that food loss? Because as recovery organizations, we can mobilize very quickly and turn food from when it lands at our doors. Usually within 24 hours, we can get it out into the community. So that's very quick to not have to have put food into the landfill. And within being in California, we have SB 1383 where we don't want to put things in the landfill, and we are actively working as recovery organizations to stop that food loss and get to these. And just having produce houses and different vendors understand that pulling things from the shelf maybe one day early can be a game changer for them, and as well as there is tax donation write-off things, and that's what houses need to see is there is ways to benefit this. It doesn't have to be 100% loss. There is ways to recover that. It may not be instantaneously, but back on the back end of the year, it does work out.
You mentioned the bill. Can you talk a little bit about that? Not all our audience necessarily might be local. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, so SB 1383 is a Waste Diversion Act that is here prevalent in California. Right now it is just at the grocery store level. So all food that is consumable needs to be donated and not go to the landfill. So grocery stores have to be partnered with a food recovery organization to receive those products, because they have to track everything that goes out. If anything goes into the landfill, there are fines that are being associated. So there's 4 tiers. We're in year 1, which is, like I said, grocery stores. Year 2 will be in January, which is restaurants, event centers like this, convention centers, our stadiums down the street are going to be heavily impacted. So conversations like that. So instead of us coming in and recovering the food from the show, which we're already doing, so they're in compliance, it would be the food from the concession stands, the water, all of that would have to be recovered from shows like this.
That's great, and I think one of the things that we're starting this year, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more after the show, is also diverting from the landfill into composting opportunities for those pieces that maybe can't make it to consumers. So thank you for educating on that. And Kristen, you might know a little bit about this as well as someone who works with donations. Does California, or do you work similarly with the Good Samaritan laws? I know I personally was at South by Southwest this year. We travel with the industry just to see, you know, what is the cutting edge, and we'll tell you one of the things that we learned was that mushrooms are having a moment, fashion and food and film. But from that event, there was actually a really highly attended session, and they were talking about the Good Samaritan laws. They were trying to educate people and understand that there's a lot of people that still in their operations don't donate because they don't recognize that they have some of that that relief. Do you have some insight on that?
Absolutely. Interestingly, my background is legal, so that's kind of the first angle I usually talk with people about. The Good Samaritan laws protect folks who are donating product. So if you're donating as a Good Samaritan, you're not going to incur the liability if something goes wrong, one thing or another. And so, there's truly no downside, no potential to incur liability, and that really provides a lot of comfort to our packing houses and other organizations. That they're not going to incur any liability. There's really only upside at this point to the donation.
Absolutely. And speaking a little bit more about some of the legislation, I know that one of the things that IFPA is really passionate about and interested in pushing, and recently released an update, was about the procurement law that we're looking and supporting and endorsing in our own legislation. And that is looking to expand the ability for food banks and other nonprofits to purchase different and more, and especially more U.S. grown in some cases. Kelly, are you thinking about that right now, or is the procurement sort of limitations, is that something that you all are challenged with at all?
So the limitations for us is when you walk up to a vendor, especially at shows like this, and we were at another show earlier this year, and they see food bank on your name badge and they go, we don't donate. And to break that cycle, and so I've had to work with our team and to really change how we address ourselves. Or we've even, as sad as it is, I would not, like this last show, I didn't put food bank on their title. I just put Second Harvest, because I want our vendors to see, we're coming to you because we want to buy. Yes, I'm going to probably ask for a donation because that is also my job, but I also want to throw you business. I want to support you as a partner. And how can we partner like this, where if I buy 10 loads, are you throwing me a load? Or think of me when you have something that's at end of life and you need to move it quickly. I want partners, and I want people to see us as a vendor, and not as a vendor, as a player in the industry. And a lot of food banks are this is a change that's happening nationwide, where we're diversifying the funds that are available to us and putting it into food purchases, and we're kind of leading the country that way, and that industries and all food industries proper need to see that food banks and food organizations are a player in the industry, and it's kind of an untapped market for solicitation for them and their businesses too.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I would say similarly, we would love to partner with all of the vendors as their logistics solution. Again, our warehouse team is full of industry veterans, so they know the challenges when we have to turn something around quickly, and they're there. They come in, they pick things up quickly, and they're out. And so, our goal is to really be that logistics solution and allow the wholesalers to go on with their daily business and not have to think about that product. It's off. So, so that's it's our goal.
Yeah, and I think we're speaking a little bit about this, but why do you think that, especially produce and floral that are here on the show today, and you work with all year round, why do you think that those supply chains are sort of prime position to really support organizations like yours, especially the kind of knowledge and the shared perspective? Do you all see yourselves as partner to the industry, or do you see yourselves as part of the industry?
It's kind of both.
Yeah.
For us, we have a 45-acre farm, so we are part of the industry.
Yeah.
We grow our own produce because during COVID, we were seeing a true lack in available product. So we decided to change that narrative and start growing our own. And we are 2 years into the process, and we are at about 4 million pounds of food that we have grown here in Orange County for the community of Orange County. Awesome. So we are actively part of the industry, but it's also, we're kind of that partner, and it's interesting, like we've seen some positive change where people are starting to see the value in having a food bank partner, and I think that for a long time people didn't think nonprofits or the food bank industry or food recovery industry was advanced enough to kind of step up and be that, and as we have grown as an industry and we are there, and we are a very kind of powerful industry that can come in and support this network, and we are very nimble, we are very quick, and we have amazing smart team members that are veterans of the industry, recent in the industry, and have made the transition to food banking or food recovery, and that we are a partner, and we are going to continue to keep growing in this as recovery movements keep growing.
Yeah, I would similarly. I'd say we are totally entrenched in the industry, and we're a partner as well. And while the industry has the infrastructure in getting the product out, we have the infrastructure to get the product to the agencies to get it to the people. So, for that last mile, we have that infrastructure totally locked in and developed. So, we have the ability to not break the cold chain. We have the ability to turn that produce around while it's still fresh and beautiful, and really get that on to the plates as quickly as it would be in any other avenue. And so, we've spent 15 years developing that infrastructure and partnering with agencies that we trust to take pristine care of that product and ensure that arrives to families ready to eat.
Yeah. And that's a really important statement that she said, is that infrastructure that has been built. Like, we're sophisticated organizations in that cold chain, and I feel like that was a hindrance for a long time, or a barrier between the industry and recovery organizations, is that the Good Samaritan law, people were like, no, it's still not going to keep us safe if something happens, because people don't realize, food banks and food recovery organizations are large facilities. We're not a food pantry, and that's where my food bank has been working very hard to educate the community between the difference of food recovery organizations and the food pantries who are doing that last mile distribution, so that industry individuals don't think I'm just sending this to my local church pantry. Right. They don't have they have one home refrigerator. You have to have powerhouse refrigeration to be able to move and nimble as our organizations do. So I think it's that education piece that we need to do a better job of really having the industry see us of who we are, as we are ready to move, we are able to store, we are able to do things safely, and the amount of work that we invest in our partners to make sure that they are equal and a very elevated organization who will continue the safety of that product, so that we're not doing any harm to any end user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a whole team that goes out to our agencies and helps them, ensures that they have the proper facilities, ensures that they have the means to get the food to where it needs to go, and in the instances where we want to serve a community that may not have that, we help them develop that infrastructure, whether it's bringing forklifts into their, into their distributions, or one thing or another. So, we spend as much time and energy on where the food goes as we do bringing it in. So, we ensure that there is safety at every point.
Yeah, I love hearing that part of the story too, because I ordered a couch during COVID, and that couch took a year, and I'm like, produce never stopped moving.
Right.
Certainly we had the same sort of disruptions. There was a number of spaces where we had to divert, but the learning curve of that was almost instantaneous. And I think that speaks to the sophistication you all are talking about. And I know that your organizations probably were rocked even more so, because you were not just dealing with the supply chain issues, but you were also dealing with the consumer kind of boom of need and demand. Would either of you, Kelly, would you like to talk a little bit about what that change was like for you, around COVID and since?
Yeah, so we doubled the amount of people we served literally overnight, with most of our food pantries shuttering their doors because they could not serve. We were very fortunate to have a great partner at the Honda Center, which is literally across the street. Oh, wow. And we, for 13 weeks, we did mass distributions in their parking lot serving our community, because we needed to be there for them. We had so many individuals experiencing food insecurity for the first times in their life and did not know what to do. Our first distribution, we caused a SIG alert on the freeway because the amount of people just panicking, needing food, coming to the food bank. So it was, I became very close friends with the Anaheim Police Department and the fire department, just kind of handling that situation, but just being that pillar to the community and going like, okay, but that truly helped us develop our, we call it our mission to nutrition, or we're on a nutrition mission, because we wanted to be that consistent access for these families to be able to have consistent access to produce and lean animal protein and milk and eggs, and the funds that they do have available to purchase, they're not having to purchase those really expensive things. They're able to buy the other things that supplement those items, and we've continued that out of COVID. We are still seeing very high numbers. They have not dipped that much since those days, so it's still showing that there is we're still feeling the impact of that time. So we're still continuing to provide those items out to the community and be that pillar to the community. We're not doing mass distributions anymore. We're empowering our network, but still being that supply chain to them. And we have an amazing sourcing team who is working to bring in these products and build these relationships and just get this product in and really work to have diverse items. Orange County is a very diverse, people don't think it, but it is very diverse community, and we serve so many different groups of individuals, and wanting to make sure that we have items available that can go to many different culturally diverse families.
Absolutely. Kristen, did you all feel a similar shift and change?
Absolutely. We jumped during COVID. Our pounds increased exponentially. I think, and I'm probably going to get these numbers slightly off, but we went from a roughly 20 million to 60 million in a year.
Wow.
And so, fortunately, we had the infrastructure in place. We could be nimble and shift and ensure that we were able to get that food out to the folks that needed it the most.
Absolutely. And as we think about one of the things that you mentioned, Kelly, that I think is really important is we talk a lot about, food donations or food accessibility, and it's not just the having something, but it's oftentimes, like to your point, it's about dignity, and it's about really being able to engage with your community and understanding that cultural significance of food is what we gather around culturally on almost all occasions, right? Food is always central to that. I see you nodding a lot. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you all think about that. How does that cultural connection really play a role in the work that you do?
Yeah, I think there is so much dignity that is imparted by fresh produce, and seeing kids grab handfuls of blueberries, and it's the dignity that imparts to a family, and the joy that is brought by mouths full of food and elbows on the dinner table. And this industry knows that better than anybody. They're the backbone of that family table, and partnering with folks like Orange County Food Bank and Food Forward allows that to be expanded. We just get that to that extra mile, and we know our communities that we serve so well, and we do our best to ensure that we get culturally appropriate food out to communities. And in instances where we get products that they might not know how to use, we work with them. We provide recipes. We have, again, those agency partnerships so that we make sure that the food that we're giving them doesn't end up in the landfill, right? That they use it, that they become interested in it, and that hopefully they develop a lifelong love for it. But I just the dignity of being able to have fresh food on the table is just it's so important. And this industry, that's what y'all do.
Yeah. Kelly, how does that factor into how you serve your communities?
So for us, dignity is such a huge thing, and that presents itself in a couple different avenues through food banking, and one of them is having diverse offerings that can be available through our pantry network, but it's also the client choice mentality, where if you're boxing food and handing someone a box of food, like that's not how we acquire food from grocery stores. No one's dictating to us what we're eating. Right. So why should that be the experiences at food pantries? So we work heavily with our network to make sure that they are client focused and client centered distribution, so that they're walking in and they're actually getting to choose what they want. They're not having to just be told, this is what you're going to have this week. supplement with what you want, but this is what you're getting told. They are actually able to go in and go, okay, I need rice, I need beans, oh, they have chicken. They can select the things that they want. So it's our job to make sure that we are serving those clients and working with those organization heads to make sure that we're bringing in product, and for us too, growing product that the end user actually needs. So we do a lot of work. My department is the sourcing team, so they work with our programs team to make sure that we're gathering these information so that when we are buying food or when we're growing food, that's what we're growing. So, and that's a funny thing is broccolini. We accidentally grew broccolini because the transplant vendor sent us the wrong transplants to plant, and we were like, what is this? So it turned out broccolini, and we pushed it out and we put it on the survey of, do you guys want to see broccolini again? And it came back as one of the highest items back, and I was like, okay, so we now continue to grow broccolini and just are planting broccolini again as another thing. But it's that constant communication of what like I was like, we don't want to grow acorn squash. Like, no, that's not a thing. And then it came back as we're going to grow yes, there's a need. So we're growing acorn squash now, but it helps us give the sourcing team a roadmap of what the community is working for. And also we've made a commitment that we're going to support local BIPOC farmers. So that for us is finding these local vendors that are in the area and how can we work with them to keep their product and keep their farm going and buying that food and pushing that back out into the community also. So a lot of the produce that individuals are seeing at their pantries are coming from a farm in Riverside or coming from a farm in San Diego.
That's great.
That's fantastic. And so we've talked a lot about, I'm getting a little hungry, but we've talked a lot about getting the food to the plate. Can you talk to us a little bit about, and Kristen, I know for the first time, you'll be working with us for the first time, so I'll start with Kelly. And can you talk to us a little bit about what is the path of the produce from the show floor? Where does it go next? What happens on Saturday night?
So the second that you guys close that show and tell us you guys got the green light to go, the volunteers, we have a team of volunteers who will be sweeping the floor, not physically sweeping it, but going through and going to each booth and saying, do you guys have anything to donate, and putting it into bins and getting it on trucks. And then those trucks will be sent to both of our organizations. And then once it hits that organization, it will go to our warehouse and be turned right out and go back out into the community. So if it comes in Saturday night, it's going to go out on Monday, and then the balance of the week until the food has been distributed.
That's fantastic. And Kristen, I know you've been planning a lot for this over the past couple of months. Yeah. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what else in addition, what will that look like to you once that truck kind of hits your organization?
Yeah, very similar. So that it'll hit our warehouse in Bell, and then first thing Monday morning, hopefully before I'm awake, it will start making its way out to our various receiving agencies, one of which is Brighter Bites, who also, does a lot with IFPA, and, and we are also taking the floral this year.
Yes.
And so we're very excited about that. We have worked with our receiving agencies. They are going to be taking the product and distributing it to the people that they serve. So, I think, again, just walking into a house where there's a vase of flowers, you can't help but smile. And so, and that's really a luxury.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think being able to give that as well as the produce is really just, it's going to be a memory for people. Yeah. It's going to add to that dignity, and I'm excited to hear what the feedback is on that, and our team is really excited to take the flowers too.
We're excited. We call that the joy of fresh.
Yes.
Here at IFPA.
Yeah.
We've been sharing. Floral is such an important part of our membership, but it's funny how much they have in common because it's a perishable product. They have the same sort of challenges with shipping and labor, all the things that our whole industry deals with all the time. But it's one of those pieces where whenever we have events, whenever we connect with our consumers, if there are flowers there, people will be there.
Exactly.
There's something just soul filling about having really great, beautiful flowers available. So we're really excited that you're going to be able to help us continue that path.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't end here. We've donated the floral in the past, but I think that this year we're really going to be able to kind of ramp that up, and y'all are such an important part of that partnership. So we're really excited about that. But I think we've talked a little bit about this as well. And as we sort of start to wrap up our conversation here a little bit, I'd love to hear what we've talked about. We spoke a little bit about Brighter Bites, right? And Brighter Bites is a strategic partner with IFPA. We worked with them for many years. And one of the most like probably my favorite thing about Brighter Bites is that yes, they provide the food. Yes, they also provide recipes and education, but they also really study the impact of the work that they do, and their research on sort of consumption over time, and families continuing to purchase and prepare food for their children, from their families, is just top of the class. And so my question for y'all is just how, if you think about what it means for especially your clients and your consumers, and when they're able to get access to, especially unique fruits and vegetables, maybe they don't necessarily otherwise see, what is that like for them as it sort of helps them set kind of habits as they go into the, as they grow and become consumers themselves?
I mean, I think Brighter Bites is a perfect example of, the excellent way, the wholesale supply chain to a place like Food Forward to the agency's work. So Brighter Bites actually works out of our warehouse in Bell for their Los Angeles distribution, and Rich Stockman has been a fantastic partner for us. And, he actually spoke at an event we had on Tuesday and spoke to that exact thing. It's not just about, the one-time distribution. It's about changing those habits and seeing that impact on health, on obesity, on diabetes rates, and providing a family with the tools to use that beautiful fresh produce and to change that habit, so that those kids come in and say, I want that, not the bag of chips. And the studies are just plentiful that is really how we can change behavior. That's really how we can ensure not only drive consumption, but ensure that is healthy, nutritious consumption. And so we provide the produce for their LA distributions, and they essentially create boxes that they take to the Title I schools and teach families how to use that produce. So it reduces the waste. It ensures that everybody gets to try different products that you wouldn't, that I've never even heard of. You wouldn't necessarily go in and buy off the shelf, and people love it.
Yeah. I think it also helps to make sure that everything isn't just steamed or boiled.
Exactly.
Some things that's how it goes, but but maybe not everything. Maybe get some olive oil and get something else going in there, and then people want more of it, right?
Right.
Kelly, do you see that sort of habit building?
And it's so important of the education piece. And being in the recovery industry, we get a lot of very interesting things, and like watermelon radishes and bitter melon, and like we don't know what to do with that, but we're very lucky to have a chef on staff who can develop recipes really quick and is telling individuals how to use this product and being that resource to people. And when we do get interesting things, to not shy away from it, to embrace it, to educate the community. We work a lot with the county, and they have a program where they're doing taste tests. So they'll work with our partners and do taste tests at their locations during distribution, so that people can see, like, oh, this is really good. I'm going to take this. I'm going to select this when it's my turn to go shop. So it's not just living at the organization and not being distributed. It's actually it's moving. So it's just that education piece and having people being open to taking and trying new things. But it's hard to do that if you don't know how to do anything with it, because that can be super intimidating.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear that y'all have a chef that's on board that really kind of takes in those products and helps to develop it. Can you talk about
his job is not actually that he's a past life. We have 2 past life chefs who now do food banking, and then when we get random product, we go, what do we do with this? And they type something up really quick, and then that becomes here's how to get rid of bitter melon.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's so funny. I think the food recovery world does attract retired or recovering people from the culinary world. So and a lot of our receiving agencies have chefs on staff or former chefs on staff, and do a lot of different fun stuff. Dehydration and creating soup bases and mixes, and so it's crazy to see all of the different ways that produce can ultimately end up on a plate in a very nutritious, interesting way.
And we have a couple organizations that are strictly they're meal based. It's like watching an episode of Chopped every time we give them
That's so
food, because
cool.
it's just like, here's 8 random ingredients. What meal are you going to turn into this? And they turn these, and he's a former executive chef, and he makes these amazing meals for the community that are being distributed in these low income areas, and it's exposing individuals to ingredients and foods that they traditionally would not be exposed to.
Absolutely. I think that's such a big deal, especially as we talk about just sort of the impact of having a variety of fruits and vegetables, just being able to kind of find your flavor, but also just being the health benefits of being able to have a diet rich in variety, not just in volume. I know that we've talked a little bit about the fact that y'all have both visited the show in the past, and you've walked the show floor. Is there something that you're really looking forward to, for this show, or is there something that you've seen in a past show that you're like, this really blew my mind, it was one of my favorite things, favorite memories?
Just the amount of vendors here, it blows my mind every single time that I come to a show, that it's just like, there's just so many. Like, I've been looking at the floor plan for a few months now, but then when you're actually here, you're like, oh my gosh, this is just so big. And it just makes my heart so happy that there's so many vendors. And after being down for so long with COVID, it brings so much joy to my heart to see like people back in the world and industry like getting back to normal, that now hopefully we'll be able to develop some partnerships out of this and recover some food 2 days,
Yeah.
2 days, Saturday night.
Yep. Saturday night. Kristen, do you have any thoughts? Anything looking forward
Yeah,
to?
eating.
Eating, yep.
The last year, is blown away. Just the amount of different new, amazing products, and I think you can't have enough. It's amazing. So I'm so excited to, go around and try everything.
Yeah. And I will say, Kelly, you mentioned pro tip number 1, which is check out the floor map in advance, map your path, make sure you hit the spots that you really want to go to, but make sure you just take a left and a right sometime here and there and just see what you discover. But and I think your point too, with people coming back together, it was such an exciting time for us, because our products are ones you have to smell them, you've got to taste them, you got to touch them, and that's something that you really can't do in a virtual space. And so we're so thrilled to be back, and we're really thrilled to be back in Anaheim. It's always such an exciting space for us and for our organization, and the energy of our attendees as they come through. There's just such an excitement that builds up, and being able to kind of connect the world. And so knowing that we have sort of the entire global supply chain here, kind of the best guest list in produce and floral. What do you think, just sort of as like a closing thought, whoever's ready to jump in on this one, what do you wish that the produce industry and the floral industry would know about your organization and your goals for this week?
Well, I think I talked about it a little bit earlier, that we are sophisticated organizations, that the food recovery industry has changed so much in the last 3 years, but let alone the last 10 years, and that we truly are here, and we're here to support this industry, and we want to support this industry and have these conversations on how we can be partners, how can we rescue food safely and get it back out to the community, that they don't need to take financial losses for product not moving or product dying in their warehouses. Like, there's avenues to not have that financial loss, but also do good with that food and get it to the end user who truly needs it. And to kind of pull the heartstrings a little bit, like, that's product that is that brand loyalty. So if they consistently see, oh, I'm seeing X strawberry company all the time, that when they are turning the page into the next chapter of their life and able to purchase item, they've got that brand loyalty and want to go to that vendor who they were eating when they weren't able to afford that product. So it's the right thing to do, and we want to be those partners. We want to help and recover and just utilize us as a entity.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything that was said. I wrote down a statistic from Kathy's State of the Industry this morning that over half of these kids in the United States don't have their serving of vegetables every day. And then it was something over the course of a week. Like, we can change that. And again, back to the dignity and the joy that fresh produce imparts. Again, mouths full, elbows on the table, bad jokes around the dinner table. I mean, this is the backbone of that joy in a family table. And, we can partner with basically any distributor to expand that. There's still an endemic of food insecurity in this country. Nearly 10% of kids are food insecure. Nearly 7% of elderly folks are food insecure. This industry is in a prime position to change that. And our organizations are nimble, and we are in a prime position to ensure that that produce gets to the people who need it the most. And, again, we want to be a solution. We want to be a logistics partner. And, we have the team to back that up. We have the warehouse veterans. We're ready to essentially make your job easier and, really do good while doing that.
Yeah.
So.
And I love that you're just talking about it's the right thing to do. And when we think about it from an IFPA perspective as well, there's a lot of sayings that we share often, and one of those ones is really about that, what we're really here for is to be able to create a vibrant future for everyone and for all, and that includes the prosperity of our organizations and those in the supply chain, but it obviously extends to our consumers, right? And it's that access and that ability to be able to access food with dignity and access food that's culturally, rich and sensitive and connective. And I think that what we are able to accomplish at the end of this show, with being able to make sure that all of that beautiful produce and beautiful floral makes its way into the community, it allows us as an organization to achieve our goals around sustainability, to make sure that we're really being good stewards of our product and good stewards in that sense. But it also allows us to increase access in the area and to your point, helping people become kind of introduced sometimes to fruits and vegetables that they wouldn't have otherwise seen. We were talking earlier, I have discovered fruits and vegetables on the floor that I've never had a chance to try before.
Yeah.
And it's such an exciting time, and it makes you curious. It makes you want to try something new and something different. So we could not do this without you. We want to say thank you so much for helping us take this incredible product and make sure it reaches those in our community, and so that people can benefit from it, so that we can keep it out of landfills and that we can really kind of continue to build those connections. And so I want to thank Kristen and Callie, both of you, for joining us from Food Forward and from Second Harvest. We hope that you have a phenomenal show as you're here and attending and kind of floating around today. But we'll see you on the floor on Saturday night as we start to make the magic happen, bringing that floral and produce back into the community.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to help, we'd love it.
Still signing up volunteers, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you so much. And there's a million ways to support organizations like ours, whether it's through food donation or cash donation, foodforward.org/donate. We really appreciate being able to be here and enjoy the show and also feed people.
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you too?
Same thing, feedoc.org, and that will provide so much information on us as an organization. But yes, people have you don't have to necessarily give financially or give product to support the organization. You can also give time. So that way we try to work with every type of person to have that. And we have so many volunteers that come through our organization. And events like Saturday, we're going to have a lot of volunteers. That is all volunteer driven. Yes, we're going to have some staff to kind of corral, but
herd the cats.
Yes, herd all the volunteers. But there's so many ways to support organizations.
Kelly, how many volunteers are there on site on Saturday?
We are still actively recruiting. We're hoping to hit around 150.
That's fantastic. Yes. And I think it was our last year's number it was a lower year because it was our first year back, but we were almost 200,000 pounds just from the show floor. And I think a couple of years ago, I think we were closer to 300,000 pounds. Do you have a prediction?
I'm hoping, Samuel, is that here? 200? 200,000.
200,000. Are you going to go above or below?
Just for good measure, I'll go above. Let's do 250.
Perfect. We're going to come back and we're going to see where we land. But that's one of our favorite stories too to share, is just how much we're able to rescue and how much we're able to kind of put back in the community. So we will be sharing that with our industry and with our members and our audience. And so I'm looking forward to being able to write that story for the association.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.